Good evening, guys. You are watching this video because you want an MT-125. But anyway, you're watching this video because you want an MT. I've owned this bike for a year now, so I'm pretty sure it's safe to say I can share a good opinion. I want to start off with talking about the acceleration and top speed. Especially with a bit of headwind too. Alright, let's see how it handles. It's wet, so I'm going to be very careful. Oh wow. Let's see how he handles in the rain though. Ooh, felt it go there a little bit. But that's where throttle control comes in. Ducked right now. Okay, right, wow, okay, I'll take that. That's not a bad top speed. But that was fully ducked, like fully ducked. That was so much fun actually. But yeah, I'm not really gonna go or give it a lot on the roundabouts because again, the roads are a bit wet right now. But I did get quite low considering the conditions, and that's another thing I want to talk about. But as you saw there, top speed, I could have probably squeezed a little bit more, but that is not bad for a 125. And a massive help is down to the VVA, and that's another thing I want to talk about in a couple of minutes. That top speed and the acceleration, it's a quick bike as well, and the throttle curve is very nice on it. Like, I felt the bike start going very slowly and you easily let off the throttle and it gained traction right away. Not to mention, the tyres this bike come with are amazing. Simply put, they grip in all conditions. As you saw there, in wet conditions on a road, I was able to get a fairly low without losing traction. And when I did, the throttle curve slightly ease it off and it slows the bike down, you gain traction, and it's amazing. Very well built bike in that aspect. And that also comes in under the handling as well. I need to get in there. Right, nice and muddy, because it's a nice place to pop my bike. But again, the handling on this bike, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, the tyres, if you look at the tyres from what you can see from how dirty it is now, but they've got these grooves which, well, help the water go, which helps contribute to the handling. But I've come here because I want to talk about, as I mentioned briefly earlier, the VVA. This is part of the bike's just electronic system, so I'll go over that. But the VVA basically, that was a bad voice crack, sorry. VVA, it opens at high RPMs to allow more top speed, if that makes sense. Variable valve adjustment, I think it is. So the valve adjusts to allow more peak torque and more peak power or whatnot at top end RPM. And it shuts to allow more torque at the low end and more acceleration. So realistically, if you're getting an MT-125 with VVA, you get best of both worlds in terms of top speed and acceleration, which is what I love about this bike. That's pretty much VVA for you in a nutshell. I want to go through the bike's electronic system. So you hold down this menu scroll wheel. You've got a telephone, messages. This, you cannot text or answer calls on this bike because that would just be texting and driving on a motorbike. But it lets you know if someone calls you when you're connected to the app. You've got your settings, maintenance, tells you when you need to do your oils, when you need to go for your next service at a dealership, etc. units, kilometers, miles, Celsius, Fahrenheit, depending where you live. Brightness, how bright the screen can get itself. You got your clock, self-explanatory, tells you what the time is. And then you've got an all reset button which resets everything. So yeah, quite a nice TFT display, very informative. But as I was saying, you got traction control as well. Yes, it's on a 125, but it's still better to have than not. You can turn it off by clicking once and holding, and then you'll get a little warning light saying your traction control is disabled. I like to keep it on in the rain. This is like one of the little dials, separate things. So you've got your instant fuel, which is basically when your bike's going, what RPM you're currently at, which is to tell you how much miles you're doing per gallon. You've got your trip radar 1, trip radar 2, and then 1, sorry. Then you've got your coolant temperature. That's really useful. I like to get that up to temp before I go off anywhere on my bike, just to get it warm up. Your odometer, how many miles you've done on your bike, and your average fuel. That's how long you've basically had the bike overall, and just your average miles per gallon of your bike entirely, simply put. I'll go on to the next most important thing in my books. Is obviously, let's be honest, the first thing is how quick the bike is. And we've covered that. So the next most important thing is, I say the suspension. Because if you don't have good suspension, like, your bike's not going to react well, and it's not going to be a good drive. And this MT-125, it's amazing. It's just, obviously if you have a massive gaping hole, which you do in the UK around here, you're going to feel that on your bike. But for the occasional, just like, you know, lumps in the road, like here for example, there's a little change, it's nothing. It's extremely comfortable. There's some oil on the road there, so I'll just maybe take that nice and easily. The suspension, no slack on this bike at all. It's got the inverted forks, which, if I'm completely honest, I don't know what they do compared to standard ones, but I know I heard a lot of people on forums saying, especially with the MT-07, how they were complaining that they don't have inverted forks. Yeah, the suspension's doing very well, hands down. If you're wanting a comfortable ride, this bike has amazing suspension. Now, another thing that falls under the comfort category is how is it to ride. In terms of the seating position, that contributes massively to the comfort of this bike. And I'll say it now, no complaints. But if you're going out for a cruise, you know, at night, like 2-3 hours, you're not going to have any problems at all. You're not going to have a sore ass, you're not going to need any padding, etc. The bike just, it's amazing. The seat is super comfortable. Even if you are worried about comfort, you can get an upgraded seat. Now, the upgraded seat will set you back a little bit. I think it's like 200-300 quid. But if you really do want, like, driving on a cloud, I'd say that it's worth the investment. But for me, I've had this bike for a year and I haven't had that because the seat's perfectly fine for my needs. And the upright position as well, I'll go more into detail on that. Compared to some other models, I know this isn't a comparison, but obviously the sports variants, you're tucked over and you've got a little bit more strain on your back. Whereas the MT here, it's amazing. This bike for riding position is it feels aggressive. Like you can lean over like that, you can just relax like this, you know, it's got everything. It's a very good mixture. Obviously you're not going to have the super sports, tucked down, mad, hyper aggressive, but it does feel like a demanding riding position, I'd say. Like you're upright, you're towering over most cars, and it feels good. I'm in a nice upright position. My legs hug nicely in these grooves of the tank. My legs aren't just poking out. My back is upright. I've got a little bend in my arms. That's what you're supposed to have. You don't want to have your arms continuously straight like that. You want a nice little bend in your arms. I'm about 6'1", so any reference there. But if you want to get a lower, or if you're shorter, you can get the bike lowered. Now, I've heard that that is an option from the dealership, but I don't know if it's true. So if you're worrying about the riding height of this bike, I wouldn't, because I think there are options to bring the bike lower by a couple of inches, and that does make a massive difference from going from tiptoes to full flat when you're at a standstill on the bike. And by full flat I mean like your foot actually flat on the ground. Another thing I want to talk about is the overall build quality of this bike. Now when you're getting a Yamaha, you are paying a pretty pricey tag. I was looking at Auto Trader the other day and these bikes hold their value really well, even with tens of thousands of miles on, which shocks me, but simply put, they just hold their value incredibly well, and it's all down to how reliable and just the quality of it. The quality is hands down amazing. You're not going to find any other bike with this type of quality. Everything just feels like it's supposed to be there, if that makes sense. Even from down to the indicators, they're in a nice position, high beams, and you've got your flasher high beams there, your brakes, your clutch, they just feel very high quality. But everything, it does feel really good. From putting the ignition in, switching it, turning it on, everything turns over nicely. Now I did have some check engine light problems. Absolutely nothing wrong with the engine. It was a faulty ECU from the factory, so not the best, but thankfully I took that to the dealership, had the warranty obviously, and they got it fixed, and I've never ever had any problems since. But the engine, it runs amazingly. I've never had any problems with the engine at all. It's super reliable. This taxi guy's driving everywhere. Look how much space he's got to be on this side of the road. I want to talk about the sound as well. I know the sound quite important, but just listen to this. That's a stock exhaust. Like, yeah, I think that's pretty good for a stock exhaust. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not incredibly loud, but you can hear it when you're on the bike, which, I mean, who cares what other people think? If you're worrying about the sound, yes, you can get other exhausts which make the bike a lot louder. I really do like this exhaust for it being stock. Like, don't get me wrong, when it's at a standstill in neutral, it does really do sound like a hairdryer. Regulation problems making it sound like that. But if you really didn't want it to sound like that, you get an exhaust and boom, the bike's completely different, sounds completely different, and yes, it will sound louder if that's what you want. Oh, this clutch control's going insane, come on. Didn't even put my feet down there, that was amazing. But another thing I want to talk about is the looks of this bike. Now, if you're getting a bike for the looks of it, I say don't. You want one that runs well and that you will enjoy. In terms of the looks of this MT-125, I think it looks amazing, hands down. It's got a very aggressive twin front headlight followed with a low beam and a high beam middle, and I think just the frame itself, especially in this icon blue, really does highlight the bike. Because don't get me wrong, I really do like the black MTs, like the fully blacked out ones. They just look mean and aggressive. But this blue, it highlights the wheels and it highlights the tank, which I think makes the bike pop quite a bit. Because you've still got black accents on it, so it still does look mean. Because let's be honest, a fully blacked out bike just looks mean. So when you pair, you know, a bit of nice deep blue with some aggressive black tones, I think the bike looks amazing. There's oil everywhere. I keep seeing oil, just little patches on the ground. Someone's been through with like a BMW or something. No hate to the BMW guys, I just know you have oil problems. The bike looks amazing in my opinion. It looks very aggressive, even for a 125 and an MT series. God, there's oil everywhere. Now let's talk about the economy of this bike. And what I mean by economy is how much fuel it uses and how much it drinks, or whatever you say. Now, with it being a 125, naturally it won't consume a lot of fuel, but sometimes I can go like 2 to 3 weeks on a full tank. Now don't get me wrong, that's not using it every day, so realistically it's probably about a week straight on a full tank, about an hour or two a day, and it does very well. I mean, my average fuel consumption is 172. If we go to my instant fuel, So we're now cruising at 6,000 RPM. I am getting 299 apparently, but that is because we're going downhill, so we're getting a little bit of a... There you go, about 211 is my instant miles per gallon. That is insanely efficient. Put it in retrospect, my car gets about 40 miles per gallon. This costs 10 quid to fill up. My car costs 80 quid to fill up. Don't get me wrong, I get my car has a bigger fuel tank and needs more, etc., but it also drinks more. So if you're on a budget, these Yamaha 125s are very good, but again, if you're on a budget, you're probably not looking at getting a 2024 MT-125. But this is what I want to say, if you're also looking at getting a bigger bike later on, this might be a good investment. And I'm saying investment because, hear me out here, it's got very good safety systems for a beginner, and that's quite important when you're starting out on a bike, because you might not think, oh, you don't need them on a 15 brake horsepower, but literally I think the day I got off on this bike, I panicked when pulling away because I didn't do it properly. I just gave it too much throttle, and then I dumped the clutch and the bike just went screaming up, and I held on for dear life, and the only reason the bike came back down was due to the traction control. So you might not need it when you go around corners because it doesn't have enough to give it some wheel spin, you know, but still it's an investment, one, for your health as well, and for your next bike. Because let's be honest, you're not going to keep two bikes. You're probably going to trade in your 125 for a bigger CC. And I'm saying that it's a good investment because if you do want to get your bigger bike, these Yamahas, especially the MT-125 and the YZFs, they really do hold their value well, simply down to popularity and just how reliable they are. These engines run for ages, and Yamaha's been making these 125s, these MTs for years, so they've been able to really fine-tune that engine for longevity, power. You get the idea. It's literally best of every single world. Oh, hello. I don't know why I waved at him. I just saw another bike, I was like, ooh. If you've got that little bit extra money to spend, I say it's definitely worth investing, because if you get a bike and it's not one that you like, you're not going to enjoy it as much. That is, holy shit. Yo, oh my god. Oh my goodness, he's rapid. Jesus, look, like that's what I mean. There's no way I'm keeping up with him. But just, that smells so good as well. I don't know how, but it just, power, that's what it smells of. It sounds so good, man. That's what a 4-cylinder sounds like. I'm going to reevaluate my decision if I want a CBR 650R now. Nah, I'll probably go with Yamaha because I really like them. So overall, I think I've mentioned quite a lot in this video, ranging from acceleration, the torque, top speed, the handling, suspension, comfortability, safety features, looks, even longevity, if that makes sense, or future-proofing yourself. So overall, my opinion, MT-125 is a solid, and I'll say again, a very solid bike to start out on, because one, you're getting the reliability of a Yamaha, you're also getting the build quality of the Yamaha, not to mention if something goes wrong, you've got widely available parts just because of how popular the bike is. And another thing is they hold their value really well, so when it does come to getting that A2 bike, which I know you are thinking about as well, you're not going to have any problems with selling this bike and getting a good amount of money back for it. So I think I've said everything I can say off the top of my head. I don't like to script my videos because I like the authentic feel of just going out and saying what comes to my mind, because that is the truth. And you guys who watch my videos deserve the truth about this bike, because that's why you watch them. So overall, I think this bike is amazing, especially for starting out. You've got the safety systems, which are massive. You've got the Yamaha's engine, which are incredibly reliable. MT-125 has been around for years now, so they've been able to fine-tune the engine to essentially perfection, I'd say. So if you're looking for an overall comfy to ride bike and extremely reliable, even one that holds value, it's got a lot of safety systems as well, and it sounds good even with a stock exhaust, and very good suspension, you can't forget that, and good top speed. Overall, the bike's amazing, pretty much. So if you're looking for all of that, the MT-125 is perfect for you. So with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. It means a lot to me. Please always wear the appropriate gear, ride safe and within your limits, and if you're in a car, wear your seatbelt. I hope each and every one of you have a lovely rest of your evening, /night, /day, wherever you are. Ride safe, guys, and take care. See you in the next one. Oh, and by the way, I've already got a winner for the giveaway in the last videos. I'm announcing that next video. Take care.